Hi, it's Mike Paul, or Mike Paul Real here, and starting conversations with fellow people wanting to maybe change the world or change themselves. Met a guy called Alex Clemens, on a London Real Life Accelerator course, and a few of us have decided to stick together and have a chat. And so here we are, a week later. It's great to be chatting with you, Alex.
You too, Mike. It's always a pleasure. I'm so grateful for technology and being able to do something like this where I'm in US and you're in England right now, and we have a time difference and stuff, but we're able to come together and do a video podcast and just chat.
Yeah, so the couple of differences I wanted to touch on there. One, the time difference you noticed. What time is it for you there?
It's right around 7:06 in the morning.
7:06 Sunday morning. Guys, this would never have ever happened if I had to be up on Sunday morning at 7 o'clock. So I appreciate, Alex. I can fit this into my schedule at midday, so appreciate that you're. But this is one thing I've noticed about you, is that you already at an early age, I say an early age, 20 something.
Yeah, 23.
23, okay. That you're practicing the habits of, I don't know, our traditional successful people already. You seem really, really very sorted. But the other difference I wanted to notice that I really enjoyed was the fact that we could have conversations and laugh, and you're 23 and I'm 50, and I'm essentially old enough to be your dad.
Right. Yeah,
but the way we were joking about it, Paulie Ponytail, James, and all of that was just like, really? So, but yeah, so 7 o'clock on a Sunday morning. So is that usual for you?
I would say it can be. I usually get up more around like 9, generally, on a Sunday, because Sunday is probably one of the few days I sleep in to a degree, and that would be just like 9 in the morning. But
okay. Would that be anything Go on.
No. What were you gonna say?
I was going to say, was that anything to do with Saturday night?
Sometimes, but not really though. Since I've been living here in Orlando, surprisingly, I don't really go out that much here where I live right now in Orlando, just because I've already done it before and I don't really gain much from it anymore. So I usually save all the hardcore stuff for when I travel.
Hey, and that's another thing I love about you and others of the younger guys that I met on the Love Life Accelerator.
Yeah.
What you said, I've seen it, I've done it. Okay, I enjoyed it, but now I'm moving on. Well, it took me another 2.5 decades to work that one out.
To work that one out. Oh, interesting.
So actually not 2.5, probably so in my 30s. I started after a round of pub golf. I don't know, do you know what pub golf is?
Well, no, we say pub golf. I don't know what that means.
So pub golf is where you have a group of pubs that you're going to go to. And the idea of golf being that you take the minimum number of shots to get round. So pub golf is the minimum number of goes at having your drink. So it'd be a pint. So for a 9 pub course, the minimum you could go round in is 9. So you have to down your pint down in one. And do so. That's we did this in our 30s, and out of the group of 15, 16 of us that went out, 8 made it back home. We don't know what happened to the other 7, but of all of it, literally all but one person threw up. And some in more embarrassing places. We caused the split of an engagement. It was horrendous. And so, yeah, I think from about that time on, I started working out that maybe this wasn't quite so beneficial for me going forward.
Did you do that more than once, kind of thing? Would you say?
Yeah. At university, it was all drinking games. That's how I made friends.
Yeah.
Drinking games, all about that. And that carried on with the group of people I met for another 10, 15 years after university. Thankfully, yeah. So now all our livers are obliterated, so we can't do it anymore.
So that's probably a good thing, right? It gives you that stoppage, gives you that red light not to proceed anymore with that activity. How many do you? I was going to ask, do you still stay in contact with those people?
Yeah, but not
You do?
so much now. So via Facebook occasionally, and then sort of annual events, sort of
Yeah.
thing. So
Cool.
there's probably about 4 or 5 that I keep in contact with on a regular basis, and
Yeah.
one of them we were best man for each other. The others I lived with and stuff, and so we went through a lot of
Oh, okay.
all the ups, all the downs, all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's cool. Actually, met one of them on the weekend of the London Real Academy. Took Aldo to meet him for lunch. So
Oh,
next
nice,
housemate. So
nice.
that's cool. So
Yeah.
it's 30 years
Yeah.
since we first met.
Really?
So you've got that
That's a
to look
long
forward to. Good long friendships.
Yeah. Wow.
So how about you? You said you've seen it, you've done it. It doesn't you don't want to do it
That's just.
anymore.
I should put it this way. I should just say, me going out right now, at least where I live, I don't get much. There's not value in it in the sense that you go out, you spend a lot of money. You don't necessarily. I mean, I can always connect well with people, but it just the environment for connecting with people isn't necessarily the best. A lot of times, it's I don't know, I find a lot of people have shields up. A lot of times when they go out, oh
Yeah,
hey, oh
that's
your kid walked
Jessica.
by, yeah,
Jessica, do you want to say hello?
Jessica.
Jessica, that's Alex.
Hello, Miss
Jessica's getting
Jessica.
ready
It's nice
to
to
go
see
out on
you.
a bike, although you might not know it by. Oh, she's been out. So
Oh.
so Alex was on the course with me. Okay, so cool. And I'm going to get back to the conversation. I'll plug myself in.
You're a joke now because you got your fingers full.
Oh yeah, I've got to show you. Jessica did nail varnish
Oh,
for me. It
nice.
started
Look
coming
at
off
that.
already. I'm the slapper on the after the night out. So so I get my hair done, I get my makeup done. Well, you're going to do my makeup at some stage.
Oh man, I mean, that's really awesome. You allow yourself, or not allow yourself, but you're open to doing that kind of thing, like engaging with your daughter and stuff, and allowing your fingernails to get painted and stuff. Like I'm a big fan of that. It's like my dad used to do stuff like that. Like he would have, I don't know. I think when he was dating my stepmom, he would do the thing where he'd get his toenails painted with her or something, and he'd get his toenails painted yellow with the smiley face.
Ah, right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So one thing I just need to say, just before I forget, I know everyone calls Jessica my stepdaughter and stuff like that. She's my girlfriend's daughter. It's fine. It's fine. So we just consider ourselves friends, which is cool. That's really cool. And it's great that we can be friends. But it goes the nail varnish thing goes to what you were saying earlier about people putting their shields up.
Yeah.
It is difficult to get to know people when their shields are up the whole time. And I think that's for you. I love about the fact that you're so astute about this stuff so early on in life. It makes me smile, and I part of me wishes I was like that, but I wasn't. So I have my own experiences because I wasn't, which is cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's very interesting to look at it from that angle. It's almost like, well, if I wasn't as astute or maybe self-aware in this area of life, then how would it have affected me through what I went through, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned, do you mind me asking, you mentioned you had a stepmom, so I presume parents separated. Could I ask what age that happened?
Yeah, that was right around 7 or 8. So it would have been like first or second grade.
Yeah, so quite early.
But I probably had one of the most easiest and smoothest transitions as far as like being an only child and your parents divorced at a young age, where they still maintained, like, they got along well. I mean, looking back, I don't know if I'd classify it as like they're still friends, because they get along because of me. So like I would spend 4 days a week with my dad and then 3 days a week with my mom, and they'd always be in the same room when I was getting like dropped off at one of their houses, and they always communicate that way. And they never, they still had like a healthy relationship in that sense, where they're able to fully communicate well. They're able to be in the same room and not get like mad at each other or anything like that. So,
did they get mad at each other when they were together?
No, not terribly where we got like violent or anything. No, nothing like that. I think it was more of my mom actually just felt like my dad wasn't mature enough for her, and then my dad not seeing that.
Yeah.
I want to say.
I smiled at that, not because I thought it was funny, because it reminded me of what my ex-wife said to me once, is that you're too immature to have children.
Really?
Yeah, and I might be stereotyping here grossly, but certain people, predominantly women, sometimes men, have this view about how life should be. And we've been having this discussion in the house this morning, and it's hilarious. Blokes are just very practical, go along with go with the flow a lot more, I think.
Yeah.
And then the women are like, no, it needs to be like this, 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 and this. And I'm going, well, why? You know, we don't have children yet, so why be responsible? You know,
Right.
it's like, I'll be responsible when I have a child to be responsible for.
Right.
It was sort of along those lines. But yeah, that's why I smiled at that comment. So
yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it's almost like in that case, like you're just being in the moment. You're like, well, I don't necessarily need to be responsible because there's nobody that's dependent on me. So because of that, I'm gonna do the things I do. But once that becomes a scenario, then I'll change my actions.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, and you probably don't notice this because you seem pretty responsible already, is that people are actually waiting for you to be responsible before they trust you. And that's the dilemma. That's the dilemma, which is interesting. And we have someone who has to deal with that themselves around here. So, but yeah, no, it's cool. So, talk to me a little bit about the work you do and how you got into it. Because you started quite early, didn't you? Or
I'm coming up on about 8 months now. 8 months of the work I've been doing. But just to kind of give people who watch us an idea of what I do. So my title, and I'm not like a big fan of titles or anything, but my title is neuro exercise specialist. But I always like to say, just so it translates better, I work at a neurological recovery center. So I'm like a specialized personal trainer to special population, being people that have spinal cord injuries, traumatic brain injuries, strokes, multiple sclerosis, so any type of neurological issue that a person has. I am essentially their personal trainer, and generally I lead like a session of me, them, and like 2 or 3, sometimes even 4 other assistants, and we take approach of exercise and recovery for their program, and we kind of follow a activity-based restorative therapy approach, which is kind of how there's a well-known like spinal cord institute in the U.S. that kind of follows this philosophy, where when you're related to spinal cord injuries, you want to always make sure you're having some form of weight bearing during the exercise. So like, because of course a lot of people that have spinal cord injuries, they're in wheelchairs. Yeah. Because they're in wheelchairs, they don't have they're never getting any type of weight bearing, and so they're never getting any type of weight bearing. What's that do to their bones? Well, it's going to cause osteoporosis, and then that just leads to more and more issues. You know how it goes, like in the health field. You have one issue in health, like it just creates a domino effect. Yeah, and then it just leads to other problems and such.
Are you aware of the Stoke Mandeville Hospital in the UK?
I'm not. No, that one I haven't.
So this was basically where the idea for the Paralympics came from. Was that a doctor that worked at this hospital, and he was actually a German doctor that came over during the wartime. And there's a documentary you can find on this, and it's very illuminating, because some of what you said was entirely what he was going on about, and it's something that I live by in my training. At the time, the prevailing view of injured soldiers coming back that were paralyzed, etc., is they just needed to be put on morphine until they died. So it was like they were put in big plaster casts, and they would sit there or lie there, and that was their life, and they were given basically the minimum of treatment, a little bit like what we're doing to the elderly in elderly homes these days. But that's another topic. Don't get me on that one yet.
Oh, dude, I could speak on that because I experienced that yesterday. So I know, yeah.
We'll touch on that then as well. So this Stoke Mandeville thing. So they got this German doctor who had, through his studies and his research and work in Germany during wartime, had worked out that we could actually start regenerating neurological conditions and spinal cord injuries and stuff like that. And what he started doing was getting them up out of their beds and getting them first out of the bed into the wheelchair, and then he would get them on crutches and stuff, and he wanted to give them stuff. And then I remember this one situation that came about was that one of the guys was like, bloody hell, I'm in so much pain. And the German doctor just goes, I'm going to mimic a really bad German accent. That is good that you are in pain. I would be worried if you were feeling nothing. You need to feel. And he got them out and about, and eventually got them out in their wheelchairs, playing basketball, tennis, and all sorts.
Oh, interesting.
And from that, they created the first Paralympics. And the para was not to do with paraplegic. It was to do with para being other different Olympics. So you've got the main Olympics, and this was another Olympics. And that's where all of that started from. So that'd be interesting research for you guys there. Because essentially the history of what you do now is tied up to that German doctor coming to Stoke Mandeville.
Tied to that German doctor. What did you say the German doctor's name was?
I can't remember his name, but if you Google Stoke Mandeville, if you Google Stoke Mandeville, you'll be able to find it. I'll look for some links for you and send them to you afterwards.
That'd be awesome, because like how we operate at our work and stuff. We do monthly team meetings, and every month we have to do like a research article, and it could be any form of the neurological field and stuff. And we review it and essentially talk about it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, cool. So that's it's really cool. And so my basic philosophy, which came out of that, was like, use it or lose it, which has been around. That saying has been around. And I herniated lumbar disc. And had quite had some neural damage to that for several months, because I had that for about 6 months. I was floor bound for 6 weeks because I decided not to take painkillers, which was probably a mistake at the time because I just didn't move. And whenever I did, I was in so much pain. But I had this idea in my head, I can't use painkillers, they're bad for me. But actually I've come to the conclusion now that they allowed me to move, and the lack of movement was even worse than the possible side effects of the painkillers and stuff like that.
Yeah, so you're like a domino effect right there.
Yeah, exactly. So I just have a very broad conception in my head that if you don't give your body a reason to fix the bit that's injured, it won't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And what you said there about getting people out of wheelchairs, if they never get out of the wheelchair, they're never going to have a reason to use their legs. The body's never ever going to apply any resources subconsciously to fixing those legs.
Mm-hmm. The body always. It's like one second. I'm hearing like echo every time I talk.
All right, I'll plug back in here. We got unplugged by Jessica for a while.
I think it's better now. I think it was when you take your headphones off.
Mm-hmm.
The mic picks up the echo of like what's going through your headphones.
Okay,
it's like every time I'll get back. I was trying to roll with it for like a minute. I was like, this is gonna be really hard to do.
That's live TV.
Oh, so true. But yeah, kind of going back to your body and your mind needs some form of stimulus in order to continue to allow it to flourish or grow. And when you don't do anything with it, going back to like people in wheelchairs and such, it's just going to continually diminish in quality. Yeah. So like you look at, like we said, with wheelchairs, you got to get people out of the wheelchair because they're in the wheelchair essentially 24/7 almost unless they're not unless when they're with us or whatever kind of the case. And by even doing so, it allows their body, their brain to kind of kick in and almost provide like a reminder of like, oh yeah, the body used to be standing here, and because it used to be standing, all these different parts of your body, your organs, your muscles and such can kind of feel a little more normal in a sense, a little bit. And from that, it allows for good efficiency of the whole body system, the whole central nervous system to work. But again, man, like most people aren't able to do it every single day. So that's the uphill battle for them. It's certainly, there's a lot of struggles out there people can experience, but certainly having a spinal cord injury, having a high degree level of spinal cord injury, that's certainly a hard task or recovery to make.
Yeah, a long-term one. So you mentioned that they can't do it every day, and is that because basically the support isn't in their place of living with family, friends, or whatever for them to be able to carry that on?
It's going to be a combination of location-wise. There's really not that many across the U.S. and probably even the world. Like kind of what we do. It's like classified as a neurological recovery center.
Yeah.
So it's just like a good environment that can provide what people would need without insurance getting in the way. Because insurance, a lot of times, at least in the U.S. and I'm sure a lot of other places, it's going to dictate how your recovery process goes. Like they'll essentially deem what's right for you and what's wrong for you.
Yeah.
When that's not going to be the case. And also finances are the biggest one.
Yeah.
Because again, insurance doesn't really provide much for people with spinal cord injuries. And because of that, a lot of people that have spinal cord injuries have to do a lot of their own fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it becomes like, well, how can you focus a lot of your time on fundraising when you also have to focus on your recovery and exercise?
Yeah.
And that just takes up a huge chunk of your day.
Mm-hmm.
And already you're immobile, so you have to battle with getting around your daily life in a wheelchair, having maybe very limited to none function at all. And you definitely need a strong family support and friends, of course. And it's
and not everyone has that.
Yeah, not everybody has that. So it's every day I'm there. I just have such appreciation for what I have, my life, my freedom, the opportunities I get. And certainly I was never a complainer when I first started this job, but like I've just transcended to another level of like not even thinking about the word complaining at all.
That's so cool.
Like I don't even think that word exists in the dictionary anymore. So
brilliant. I heard you talking to someone else on the tour walk in a similar vein about being pretty relaxed with life because there's so much shit going on.
Well, I used to do commercial fishing, and my fish captain, he would always say, like, if you're ever looking for sympathy, open up a dictionary and it'll be between shit and syphilis.
I love it. Excellent. So, okay, so fishing, neurological rehabilitation. Talk to me about it.
Talked about it. What?
How did you get into fishing? How did you get into fishing?
So this would have been after I was not living in Alaska anymore, because I'm originally from Alaska. I lived in Alaska for 18 years. Yeah, I lived in Alaska for 18 years.
So need to talk to you some stage about that. There's so much I want to ask you.
Oh, dude, for sure, man. We'll talk, man. We're talking right now, so that's what it's all about. But I did, just to kind of give a little quick overview. I did 3 summers of commercial fishing in part of Alaska, sort of like the southwest bottom corner of it. It's called area called Bristol Bay, and it's known for red salmon. So we caught red salmon. And
are you the guys that make it so expensive?
No, that's another story. Is it expensive? Do you guys get, like, can you buy Alaska red salmon or Alaska salmon?
Yeah, we get it in, can get it in John West tins. And the red salmon.
I don't even know what that,
it's just a brand. It's a brand over here.
Oh, it's a brand.
Probably the best known brand of tinned fish in England. And
so it's okay. So it's canned, but are you able to buy like I guess it'd be frozen filleted.
You can, but it's not. You wouldn't find it in most supermarkets. Most salmon we get is farmed.
Yeah. And would it be farmed in England? Do you know?
Scotland, Scandinavia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we do. I look for wild fish where I can, because I probably overcomplicate the nutrition, but I like the idea of probably less pollutants, a better fatty acid profile because they're eating naturally, and the lack of antibiotics and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
To it.
I get what you're saying. You kind of take the approach like, well, if I want a better quality of life for myself when it comes to like nutrition, shouldn't I eat something that has like a better quality of life also, rather than like farm fish? I
get that that's not necessarily an easy thing for everyone to do, and I have to pick and choose when I do it. So again,
that's so it's so true. It's just, it's a pick and choose situation a lot of times.
On a Saturday night at 3:00 in the morning at the end of a London Real event, there's a doner kebab shop, and I need food. I'm going to get a doner kebab.
Well, I've quickly learned that when you go to England and you go out, and then it's like 1, 2, 3 in the morning, like that's the thing you got. That's the thing you got to do. That's the thing you got to partake in. It's almost like it's kind of part of the nightlife culture.
Yes. Yeah.
At least in London, probably other parts of England. It's like that in Australia a little bit. Like there's a lot of kebab shops.
Yeah. We so you get it here. You get it in Germany as well, because there's a big Turkish contingent in Germany. After the Second World War, there was a lot of Turkish immigrants there. We've got a lot of Turkish, Lebanese, Greek, Cypriot, the whole lot in England, especially in major cities. So it is good. It's not always the best, but some of it's really cool. Flatbreads and grilled meat.
Yeah.
You can't go far wrong. The gluten, that's another issue. Yeah. I'm not. Some people need to be aware of it. Some don't, probably to the same extent.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, put it this way: if you've been going hard enough or partying hard enough that night before you get to the kebab shop, it all kind of balances out. That's one way to look at it.
So did you have a kebab whilst you were there then?
I didn't. Not this past trip, but the first time I was in London, was leaving the area of Kensington, and me and a couple of mates, we stopped at a kebab shop, and it was really good. So yeah.
Excellent, good man. Yeah. So you were telling me about the fishing.
Yeah.
You caught mainly wild red salmon.
Yeah, so we caught mainly red salmon because that would be the thing we would sell to the buyers, and we would also catch. Are you familiar with flounder? They're like a flatfish.
Yeah.
And they have like one eye on the top. Yeah, we catch flounder, and that's actually somewhat fairly big in the U.S. Like the East Coast, people eat flounder, but in Alaska, nobody eats it and nobody buys it. So literally, we'd catch it all the time. We would just throw it out.
Yeah,
we'd throw it back in the water.
So in England, they would talk about that as being a bottom feeder, maybe. So like the flatfish, like just skim the bottom of the sea, and they basically eat the shit. And that's why there's a thing about flatfish here that people won't eat it because of what they perceive the fish eats.
Well, what about so like will you eat halibut by any chance?
They do, but again, is halibut a flatfish again then? Because we got plaice.
I feel like I'm pretty sure they're like a flatfish. They're extreme. They get extremely big though. They can get like north of. I gotta think of them in kilograms, huh? Well, 300 pounds. So
I can. It's about 200 kilos, 150, 200.
Yeah, 200.
Kilos. Yeah, just half it. Actually.
But they get massive. So I'm. Yeah, I think they're a bottom fish.
So we do eat. Yeah, we'll have halibut here.
Okay.
So the fish and chip shops. The big thing here is cod.
It's cod. Okay.
Yeah, which I find boring unless it's deep fried in batter. Then it's like then it's edible.
So most of the time, most of the time when you get fish and chips in England, the fish is generally going to be cod. I know it's always a white fish of some sort.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what they do. But now they're looking for more sustainable fishes. So you start getting things like pangasinan from Thailand and stuff like that coming in.
Oh, interesting.
Which is really tasty, actually. I think it's like got a really nice sweet taste to it, and it's still not popular, so it's cheap.
That's the key word right there, or the key phrase. It's still not popular.
Yeah. So okay, so you did the fishing for what, 3-4 years? Did you say?
Three summers. So that would entail about almost 3 months every time I went out.
Right. Okay. And was
gone.
that like a holiday job whilst you were at college or something?
Yeah, it was like So yes, we call it during summer vacation or holiday. So yeah, It was finish up school semester or my year-long school in Arizona, and then I'd fly back to Alaska, maybe get like a week back in my hometown, 2 weeks, and then go out fishing for several months, and then come back, visit the family a little bit, and then go back to school kind of thing.
So could you have found anywhere further in America to go to school?
Oh, where? I could have gone a lot farther. Do you know where Arizona's at?
I mean, I'm probably getting mixed up here. I'm thinking it's South America somewhere, is it not? Like, as in south of North America.
Oh, so you're talking about like in south, like of the U.S., like it's in the southern part of the U.S.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, it borders the Mexico, the country of Mexico.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So you couldn't in the U.S.
Yeah, I guess to go farther, it would have been. I want to say. I guess Florida would have been like the farther south I could. Yeah. Oh no! Oh, I think is it Texas? I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't know what the farthest south point is in the U.S., but it's You're right though. Like
you've gone from one end of the country to the other.
Just about. In a lot of ways, like two ends of the spectrum, where you go from somewhere that can be very cold to somewhere that gets fairly hot. But I don't know if you're familiar. Like I lived in an area of Arizona that is fairly close to the Grand Canyon. And so that actually gets seasons. So it actually snows there. So people are like, it snows in Arizona? Yeah, it snows in Arizona. It's not all deserts. And I think actually it has the highest concentration of ponderosa pine.
All right.
So trees, and there's trees in Arizona. I'm trying to say.
and pine trees to boot, which you associate with the cold climate. Excellent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So just a quick memory for me of the Grand Canyon is
you've been there? Okay.
No.
Okay.
It's about the Grand Canyon. Did you ever see a TV series called The Brady Bunch? Mm-hmm. So the mother with the 3 daughters and the father with the 3 sons, and they all live together. Yeah. Well, they were on telly. They were on holiday at the Grand Canyon, and the tour guide was telling them that the Grand Canyon was carved by rivers, and that it was all water erosion. And the little boy goes, "Wow! No, now I know why Dad gets so pissed at us leaving the taps dripping." So whenever I hear the Grand Canyon, I think back to that. I was like, "Oh, don't leave the taps dripping."
Oh man. Do you still? That's funny. Does that memory always come back to you whenever you see like somebody turn the tap water on and maybe they leave for a second and like it's still running? Like,
no. It comes back when I think about the Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon only.
Yeah. So it didn't really have a brilliant effect on me.
I thought it'd be one of those things. Like it's almost like a little sentimental memory or whatever. Like, oh, that person leave the tap on. Oh yeah, don't leave the tap on because then the Grand Canyon won't get formed. Yeah, or it will get formed, I should say. Yeah.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's a great piece of nature, isn't it? Grand Canyon.
It really is. Is
it one of the natural wonders of the world?
Yeah, and I mean, they always kind of include it as far as like one of the 7 wonders of the world kind of thing. Yeah. I don't know how you can just limit only 7 because there's so much out there.
Totally. We were just walking in the woods and the fields, but out where Lisa lives, and we met this woman who just started talking to us, and I don't know why, but it was like she just started talking to us, and it's like, you need to come this way. There's some orchids growing over here, and they're really, really valuable, but nobody knows they're here. And she just wanted to show us all this plant life, and it's just like, this is a really typical ancient meadow. So everything that grows here is what would have been growing here hundreds, if not thousands of years ago. And it's like, this is on our doorstep. Yeah. And we don't know that. And it was just like, that's just scrubland. You know, it's like, it's a pain. I'm just going to stick to the path and I'm not going to look at it. So I took a couple of photos and stuff, and it's like, you're right, there are wonders everywhere.
Yeah. And it's funny to think, like, we've pretty much discovered a majority of stuff on Earth in a lot of ways, but there's still so much that doesn't get seen on a daily basis, or it just doesn't, in a lot of ways, maybe get appreciated. Like, in that sense, I feel like she was telling you because she just almost felt bad that, like, wow, there's really nobody's taking in, nobody's basking in, like, the beauty of this meadow and the orchid and stuff.
And she was showing us some medicinal plants as well that had an antihistamine effect and things like that. So we've forgotten that part of nature, but we turn to the pill. You know, what's the next drug that's going to cure this, cure that? And there's so much in ourselves and in nature around us that I believe, with my experience with cancer and stuff, that we don't have to get ill if we don't want to. I think that's not totally true. That may sound really awful to some people who have multiple sclerosis and stuff like that, and I don't mean it like they chose to get that. Not at all. But
it's something like preventable diseases.
The environment we live in, modern environment, I think, is drawing us down a line of many of these issues.
Big time.
We don't yet know how to deal with all of them, but just going back to nature and how humans operated in that nature in some way, shape or form. I feel almost like lifted, cleansed when I go for a walk in the woods. Did that 3-hour walk that Brian wanted us to do. And it was the day after I'd had my meltdown about the ADHD stuff, and I was so angry with the world. But 3 hours of walking in the woods, bit of meditation with trees all around me, sun coming, filtering through the leaves. There was there's a little river, and you could hear the babbling of the river. And I came back, I was floating. I was just like, I was so happy. And that lasted for a few hours. And it was just, it was like anything that the world was throwing at me was like water off a duck's back.
You get like a it's like your nature glow, like it's an after nature glow kind of thing. And you're right, like it's just part of being a human. You need to have that connection with nature and the space, the greenery and the smells, the scenery and all of that. And I kind of I think of it like, I'm just looking at what I'm seeing right now because I'm at a Starbucks and I live like in a concrete jungle, so it's just an abundance of asphalt. There's occasion, like I still have trees in front of me, but they're not the more natural trees where they're just there. They've been there for like thousands of years, kind of thing, and you can learn a lot from just taking in how they've formed over many centuries and such. And I think, like when you go for a walk in the woods or the forest for like 3 hours, I think of it as right now. I'm just gonna make the comparison like. Like you have a Tesla, you pull that Tesla up to like a recharge station. I say Tesla because like you're running on clean fumes and stuff. And you go to that recharge station, you plug in. A couple hours later, you plug out, and then you're off and you're rolling again. Kind of thing.
That's cool. Excellent. So I'm just conscious of the time here. So the reason we met was because we both we signed up for something called the London Real Life Accelerator. And part of why I'm doing these podcasts is to document our experiences over the coming year, and maybe even longer going forward, because I think we've met a really cool group of people. Talk to me about why you wanted to go on the Life Accelerator. You seem like a really sorted guy. You seem to be heading in the right direction. You seem to be knuckling down, but knuckling down in an unforced way. You seem to be enjoying what you do. You walk around with a smile on your face. And to me, you were fairly atypical of people on that course. That's just my own opinion. Right. But just talk to me a little bit about why you wanted to go on that course, how you came about it, what you thought you'd get out of it, that sort of stuff. Just
So for me, I'll just kind of start off by saying like probably the past, even my entire life, I've just always had this approach. Like I just always want to be unique, be different. I want to be outside of what the norm, the group of people I hang with, or just the people in my environment are doing a lot of times. And so I've always had this approach, this open-mindedness to like always just look for things that would separate me from the crowd, or just it would make me really stand out, or just give me even a feeling of like, wow, I'm doing something different. And I really have, it just gives me a lot of sense of fulfillment because of that. And so anyways, the past several years, I've really made a strong effort with just my own self-awareness, whether it be through listening to podcasts or exposing myself to different ways to think and things along that nature. So going from that to like within the past year, I've really made a strong effort to put myself in experiences and activities that really give me value to continue to make me the best version of myself. So doing things like joining like improv or doing like an improv class. You're familiar with improv? I did that when I was in Australia, and I totally grew from that big time.
So when you did that, was that just sort of improv acting, music, or what? Talk to me a little bit about that. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, so improvisation, it's where you work with other, like it's like a team game almost in a sense, because a lot of times you just get a scenario handed to you right off the bat, and then you have to play that part. So a lot of times you can take it in the form, you take the character that you might have to play and you just roll with it. And it's unscripted, and it kind of lends back to like what we're doing right now. We're having an unscripted and human, genuine, authentic conversation, which I think provides like the best and most creative, freeing, empowering ideas a lot of times when you don't have like the expectation you have to meet. So it's just
I feel this.
Yeah, you feel, well, I never thought of improv with what we're doing right now, which makes sense.
But also, I'm really smiling because children do that the whole time. Jessica will come in and start playing a role.
Yes, yeah.
And she wants to make us breakfast, so she'll come through with a little notepad and she'll want to take our orders, but we have a role to play, and it's always slightly different to what we expect because it doesn't happen the way that normal world. This is like how Jessica is improvising at the time. And we as adults, we struggle with it because but we know that life happens this way, so you can't tell someone they can't have that because I'm the customer, and we don't roll with it. And we're getting slightly better at rolling with it now. But it just reminded me, it's exactly what you said. And as adults, we stop ourselves doing that with the children because we know what the adult world is. You have to do it this way.
Yeah, we get stuck in that real world environment where we always have to be this one way because we want to perceive ourselves to others as being what we have to be, or what it's expected of us in a lot of ways. But and I'm sure Jessica, I don't know how much she realizes or not, but when she's doing it, I don't know if she actually realizes she's doing it a lot of times. But it's a great reminder when you're around kids like that.
She's learning. She's trialing out her ideas in life and learning to find her place. That's how I sort of perceive it. And I think if we can stop ourselves from putting those ideas down the whole time, then that whole creativity thing, which seems to be lacking a lot now, or there seems to be a common complaint in our education system at the very least, that we're lacking creativity. But when you stop people being creative from their very early years, it's not really very surprising.
Absolutely.
So you love doing different stuff, improv.
So that's just an example of, I've just always been looking for different things to dabble with or experiment with to see how I react or what I get from it. And so going back to London Real, I've been listening to the podcast probably for around 3 years or so. And I've just always been fascinated, always intrigued by all the guests they have. I get so much just listening to whoever's on. And so flash forward to when I signed up in May. I was actually in the Miami International Airport, and I just missed my connection flight to go to Las Vegas for a job interview. And so I had like 4 hours to just kind of walk around the airport, gather my thoughts, do whatever in those 4 hours. So I just had my podcast app open, and it was the same time Brian just uploaded his promotional video for the Life Accelerator. And I listened to it like several times within that 4 hours. And I was like, man, I'm really stoked on this. And I've always heard about the Life Accelerator because it's been going on for a little while. And I know I've actually seen videos of like previous graduates do like their interview, and I've listened to them, and it just kind of clicked with me in the moment as far as like, wow, well, I might not be able to go to this job interview right now, but at least I want to make sure I'm still setting myself up for my future and continually investing in myself. And by listening to that podcast several times, I just continually like said like, yep, you got to do it. You got to do it. When I say in my head, I continually like resonate with me like, yep, you got to do it, Alex. You got to do it. It just makes sense. It just makes sense. Like looking around the airport, like how many people right now in this airport are thinking about investing in themselves? Because most of them are just thinking about like the travel, all the hassle that goes into travel. And really, depending on how you approach that, there's not much hassle if you go about it in a right mindset. So it just all clicked with me, and that's why I wanted to do it and did it.
So you saw it as investing in yourself, which is really cool. So having seen the modules, did you know what modules were going to be on the course?
I didn't have like a great detail of what the modules were going to be in the course, but I had a little sense because I know Ryan talked a little bit about it in that promotional video. I can't remember if it was like 30 minutes long or something, but he went a little in depth of like what you can expect. I think he may have said like, you're going to have these many habits you're going to take on board and implement and experiment with, and just have an open mind and just almost surrender yourself to it and just allow to see where it takes you.
Excellent. Cool. So moving on, the first group call. And everything. How did you find it all? Was it what you expected?
Yeah. So this is something new for me as far as maintaining some form of maintaining relationships online like this. Doing like the big group calls and stuff. I've never experienced that, and then just kind of getting used to like you're still present somewhat, but a lot of times you're just listening. Like it just because there's anywhere from 40 to 50 people, you can't chime in or whatever, and that's a-okay too. And used to that.
So when you were maybe not as present as you could have been, or you were less present on the actual conversation, I get entirely what you're saying, because there would be certain people that interested you, certain that didn't, and I liked it when certain team leaders were talking. Preferred to others, but that would just be me individually. What sort of things were you doing when you weren't listening?
Well, a lot of times for me, like, so I don't have like Wi-Fi at my house or my apartment, so I go to like a lot of Starbucks or Whole Foods and stuff. So like I'll be clicked in, or I'll be videoed in, I'll be watching, and then a lot of times I won't get distracted, but I'll just kind of glance off like this right now, what I'm doing right now on the screen, and just kind of stare off a little bit while I'm still listening. But it just kind of goes back to like there's a small chance of me being called upon a lot of the times, and because of that I'll listen, but I won't necessarily like tune in like as if I was actually present there. You kind of follow what I'm saying. But I love the group calls just from the fact that you hear so many different perspectives and stories and experiences of how people have had in their past life, and then how these implementations of what you learn in London Real Life Accelerator going for them. And it just continually just opens my eyes to, and there's so many different roads, paths you can take in life. And it's just always good to know that there's so many options out there. And
do you ever find that overwhelming?
Overwhelming from the standpoint there's so many overwhelming for what?
So I wanted to, because you said something about wanting to be the best version of yourself. And the reason I asked this is because I have a friend who he had a mental breakdown, and I know when he's going to have a relapse now, because he will start saying things, I don't know what's the best option to take.
Oh, interesting.
And he starts thinking, and I was just thinking about how I wanted to ask before, and he's like, I want to be the best version of myself. What I want to ask you is how do you measure that, and how can you ever achieve it? Because I have some thoughts on it myself, but I would just like to
I like this
because it's an interesting strap line. I want to be the best version of myself, but what actually does that mean?
How do you define that and such? I think for me, whenever I say it, I'm just like, and I don't ever expect, nor do I ever want myself to get to a point where like, yep, I've just peaked out. I am now at the best version I can possibly be of myself. And there's no more going up. There's no more upside I can potentially give to myself. So I think whenever I say it in my mind, I have this notion that there's no way I'm gonna ever get to the point where I've done all these bodacious goals for myself. I've reached a state where I'm the ultimate James, aka Bean Alex, in life.
Yeah.
And I think by me having that mindset, it just continually allows me to know that, well, as long as I'm putting myself out there and I'm just always taking action, whether it be doing experiences, activities and such, I always get value from that. Just interacting with people, just interacting with different experiences and such. And by the value I get out of it, I just know I'm always climbing the mountain, the peak and such. And I know I'm always going up. So I know I'm growing from it. And I just, again, going back to like, because you're asking this and I love it because now it's getting me to think more about it. I have the mindset. I know I'm never going to peak out.
Oh, good.
Let's say.
That was, yeah, because to me, when I hear the best version of myself, it almost implies a moment in time as opposed to a process. Because we think about, like, you know, if you think about the iPhone 6, the iPhone 7, they're always like a model that is fixed with a set of attributes. But I really like what you were saying there about this continuous growth. And maybe that in my mind, the best version of myself and maybe the best version of yourself is the version that's always enjoying that growth in life and seeing the challenges that come across us and how we
because I think for me personally, I want to be growing up until the day I die, essentially. So even when I'm on my deathbed, I want to be growing. And I had almost like a realization, I think actually when I got back to Orlando, like on last Tuesday, when I was meditating, I think it was actually last Wednesday, when I was meditating, I just had the thought like, wow, if I practice like a lifelong practice of meditation, and then when I'm on my deathbed, because when you're on your deathbed, what are you really doing a lot of times that you can do? Like you do a lot of self-reflection. And so that becomes meditation. So it's almost like you're meditating your entire life for that one point in time where you're on your deathbed. You're just reflecting on your life and you're going through maybe the things you loved about your life. And for me, hopefully no regrets and just coming to terms with that and being able to process everything you've done in life in a healthy manner. And just kind of tying it together like, wow, okay, meditation long-term, there's definitely some upside as far as different phases it's going to help you through life.
So had you meditated before you came on the Life Accelerator?
I did a little bit, like different forms of meditation for me would have been through like yoga and float tanks, so floating. Yeah, but through Life Accelerator, I've really now have a consistent meditation practice, and which I never had before. And
do you notice difference from that compared to the inconsistent meditation that you've done in the past?
Oh, tremendous. And I think it lends for me whenever I meditate, I get a lot of different positives out of it, whether it just be a clearer mind, more self-awareness for myself, understanding why I make the decisions I make. Just being able, I think one of the biggest reasons I like to do it is it just allows me to put a stop on everything I'm currently doing. Because like a lot of us, we just continually bounce from one thing to the next without even realizing like what's all going on in our lives. It needs to be done. And I know, I actually didn't meditate yesterday. So, but it's something I always need to do because if I don't do it, I'm just continually bouncing from one thing next. And it's really like, I'm never taking a stoppage on my life unless I actually go to sleep. And is that really a good thing, just to continually bounce from one thing to the next? And it's almost like you miss out on reflecting on moments a lot of time. Like if I go on a holiday and travel, when I was in Europe, like 7 or 8 weeks ago, it was almost like I was just going from one activity to the next with the people I was traveling with. And I mean, sure, we take pictures, we take video and stuff, but do we really get a look back on the moments we shared? Because ultimately, like living life, you just want to experience and share and remember the moments. I feel like that's what really.
Yeah, I think it's cool, and I think there are some slightly not so cool sides of meditation I have heard about, but they're like very, very rare. But for me, I always go back to the evolutionary context, and exactly what you were saying there. In evolutionary times, we didn't have this pinballing from one thing to the other 24/7, all of this. We had loads of downtime. The Aborigines in Australia, they have a famous ritual that they do called walkabout, and they go off on their own for days, if not weeks on end, to walk.
Really?
And it's like a long meditation, reflection, whatever you want to call it. And there was actually a film about it back in the 70s, so before you were even a twinkle. And it was just, and we miss out on these things, you know. We don't sit around campfire and tell stories anymore, and we don't look up at the stars and consider the enormity of what's around us and all of this type of thing. So I think meditation sometimes can be a little bit contrived, because that's what we're trying to, and we get a Headspace app to fit it in for 3 minutes in the morning and 3 minutes at night and stuff. But it's a start to try and get us to do exactly what you were saying there, is to just be able to reflect and absorb. You may have done, when we did the movement, we had that Shavasana where you just lie down at the end of the class. And that's the time to let your whole mind, conscious and subconscious, just to absorb what's happened. From a neurological perspective, and this is what I love, because Western science is now catching up with all of this, that's when the learning and the rewiring comes. It doesn't come from the actual physical therapy session itself, it comes from the recovery period afterwards. And so all of these things, when you start joining the dots, make up this, well, actually life's really pretty simple, make it really difficult. I love the way you put all of that, because it just, that fits so well. I want to take your head and replace it with a 95-year-old philosopher's head on those shoulders, because you have the head and the thoughts and the minds and the spirit of someone beyond your years. And that's, I mean that, because I've met a couple of youngsters. I call them youngsters because I'm old enough to be your dad. And but it's so cool. It's so cool. I can't have this type of conversation with most people I know my own age. So it's really cool. So meditation. Go on, sorry, you're going to say?
I was just saying but I appreciate everything you just said there. That's something for me that's always on my mind. I'm just like, I always think to myself, like, man, Alex, I'm so grateful that I've somehow evolved to a point where I have this self-awareness about myself and others, and I just want to do the things I'm doing right now, because it just allows me to have these moments where I can connect with somebody like you, and we can see what sparks from the conversations we have, the ideas we share, the experiences we have, and just ultimately connect in that moment. And like, I don't know about you, but I feel really great about the conversation we're having. Like, this is like one of my favorite things to do, is just like have conversations like this and see what happens. And
exactly.
I love it. Yeah.
I was really intrigued. I had a conversation like this with Carlos after the first group meeting, and I was just really, really surprised at how much of a connection you can make when you're not in person. And like, we're on 2 different continents, and it's like, but I love that I can see your facial reactions, you can see mine, depending on how you've got it set up, you can see your own as well. And it's just really, really cool. It's fantastic. So big thanks to London Real for showing me this. And I know this has been around for a long, video conferencing software has been around for a long time. Right. But typically people have always said, you've got to meet in person. So it's not always the case.
It's the same for me. Like, I know there's new video conferences around. I'm used to like doing FaceTime or whatever with like families and stuff, but I never like strangers, and just from there seeing about having conversations. I mean, I'm glad me and you were able to experience it, and we've embraced it.
It's really, really cool. So meditation, definitely one thing you've got out of the Life Accelerator.
Absolutely.
Is there anything you didn't like about it? as stuff you didn't jive with? I'm sort of guessing that you just took everything in your stride and just took it, tried it, and it's like, but what something that didn't gel quite so well with you, if there is anything?
Yeah. The one thing that didn't gel with me probably as much as a lot of other people is just like the relationships aspect. As far as like, I still got a lot out of the relationships, but I just don't have as much experiences with deep form relationships that might have ended negatively, or I wanted to continue to carry on positively. And I had to go through that process of the forgiveness or giving or asking for forgiveness and then giving forgiveness. Like I still did it from the experiences I've had, but I don't have it nearly as how other people, like in the team calls we had and people sharing their experiences, and it just made me realize like, wow, I need to commit more to relationships.
Maybe
in some ways. Yeah.
Maybe you're just maybe you're just young.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm 95 in some sense. So I don't know. My time's burning.
No, it's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So because the relationships one, I wasn't really sure what was going to come out of that. I thought it's really cool. I love the modules. To me, I didn't really see it as an accelerator. For me, it was like rebuilding my foundation, because I already agreed with pretty much a lot of the things they were doing. But I wasn't doing them consistently. A bit like you were saying with the meditation, you meditated, but you didn't do it consistently.
Yeah.
So I like the aspect of trying to get all of those habits working consistently. So
that's probably different, because like you said, you've known about most of the stuff that was probably introduced in the course, like with the relationships and like kind of how to approach like a healthy relationship. But once you,
not that I manage them, trust me. I'm divorced, so I obviously didn't know how to manage them that well.
But now you probably have a better idea though than you did prior. Yeah. But it's just kind of how like the course gets laid out within those first 2 weeks, those first 2 different modules. It really allows you to build up this habit of practicing consistency. And so then when you get to the relationships part, now you have all these prior habits of consistency, taking them on board. So it's going to give you a much different approach to how you take on relationships then at that point. I think that's how I felt.
So can I ask them, were you actually really consistent with everything as we went along?
Yeah, there was just the one thing I ran into. It was around module 3 going into 4. I was out of the country for like 2 weeks, and I'd still like tune in to videos and stuff, and I'd still, to the best of my ability, a lot of the times do the tasks and such. There was just a period where I had a hard time having good quality like internet, and then not being surrounded by a bunch of friends and stuff where I could focus. So no, I was consistent with like the practices and stuff and everything.
And so do you still wake up each morning? So how do you do it? Talk me through when you fit in. So like for me, so the key things were like the meditation, the gratitude, the affirmations. Talk me through your routine for that. When do you do that stuff?
Yeah. So my routine now is kind of evolved from like how London Real kind of laid it out. So when it comes to gratitude is usually expressed through like my daily vlogs. A lot of times I'll just find moments and I'm like, you know what, right now I'm biking on this bike lane, and there's painted fences all around me of different characters and stuff. It's a part of Orlando. It's called Paint the Trail. And I'm just remember I'll say like, oh, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to have a bike like this, be biking, have artwork around me, have lovely weather, and be able to do this. So things like that, I'll practice gratitude through my daily Xander. I always find.
I just like to interject in there. I did minimal research. I watched some of your interview, but I did catch a couple of your little vlogs as well. And actually, you watching those, you inspired me. I was out in the woods. I've yet to post them, but I was doing that, and I was doing some exercises on the bench, and I was doing some crawling and showing the type of paths I like and stuff. So I want to say thank you for your vlogs, because that's actually. Yeah, I've got my camera with me. I'm going to take a vlog now and just do it. So thank you. But carry on. So
I'm glad to hear that, man. That's awesome. That's a whole nother topic we can talk to too about just the dynamics of filming and stuff. It's been interesting for me. But So yeah, gratitude. I usually get practice through daily vlogs, and then also just how I interact with people. I kind of go back to like, just how can I give value to somebody? And a lot of times I'll think of like, all right, well, let me just ask them real quick. Like, hey man, what are you grateful for right now? Because there's been a lot of times or scenarios, somebody might be a little upset, and then I'll just either make a joke or right off the bat, I'll just like say, hey man, hey gal, what are you grateful for right now? Kind of thing. And a lot of times we'll get them to pause for a second. They'll think about it and they'll say something, and then it kind of like dies down the tension or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I do gratitude. Meditation, it varies. So it's almost like throughout the day for me. It's never like a set time. It's just whenever I could kind of find time, and just always have in the back of my head like, hey, I got to do some form of meditation today or multiple meditations today, and just make sure I make it happen. And a lot of times it happens during my lunch break. My lunch break, there's a park really close by, so I go for a bike ride, and I'll be on the sun, and then I'll do like a 10 or 15 minute meditation. And yesterday I experimented with this. I got home around like midnight, and I was about to go to bed, and then I was just listening to music, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to embrace this music. I'm going to turn off all the lights in my apartment. And I closed my eyes. I literally just danced around for like 10 minutes in my apartment. And it was almost like, It was like mimicking like that's the phase 5 of the dynamic meditation.
Yes.
Where you're just like celebrating.
Yeah.
And so like I was present in the moment, but I wasn't necessarily thinking of how I was reacting to the music.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went from that jumping around and stuff to going to bed right away, and I just like fell asleep, which was it's interesting because I was like very active in how I was dancing and stuff.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's really cool. Yeah. So I think you go on. Just carry on. Sorry. No. Go.
Good. And then like for affirmation, I say my affirmations pretty much every single day. There's times I kind of forget, but I literally say my affirmations every single day on my phone, and I'll say them out loud. Whenever I can. So I embrace everything, and I do everything pretty much on a daily basis. So I just find what works best for me given my current lifestyle. However, I make it work.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point to make for anyone who might be watching this and has heard about meditation, because often you get told you have to do it twice a day for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, and it has to be at this time and this time, and always find the same time of day to do it. And it creates a barrier for many people to doing it. And so very quickly, I got up this morning and my daughter was throwing up, so I had to clean up, so I didn't get my chance to do this. Or, the dog ran off and I couldn't get my time for meditation, and life interrupts. And I think your approach there is really cool there are times that I can fit it in. I get my quick lunch time, but having the awareness to do that, having had that sort of practice that that there's a benefit to it. And then actually as you move forward, you find your own way to fit it into your life. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most healthiest approaches, because like that's the approach you should take with anything. Like you look at health or fitness or whatever, you should never be conformed to like a certain way of doing it. You just find it, you learn about it, and you apply it yourself, and then through like reflection of it, then you have a better sense of like what ultimately works best for you. And it's really interesting how you just broke down like, for yourself, if you had like a morning meditation and like your daughter was throwing up or something was up with the dog, then like you taking care of like your daughter or your dog, based off you already having this idea like, man, I really wanted to meditate this morning, now it's being interrupted, then it's going to have an effect on you taking care of your daughter or your dog. And then it can almost be like you could be in a little more of a negative stage, which that's interesting you say that, because then I just had that thought like, so kind of again going with the flow in a lot of ways.
Definitely. Excellent. So what out of the Life Accelerate, what's been the biggest thing for you so far that you think you take away from it?
Just thinking, because I can say a lot. I'm trying to just talk. Yeah, trying to narrow it down. I really like. For me, it's really put me in a mode of productivity now, because like, with all these little tasks you had to do, it just got me in a habit of staying on top of everything.
So can I just question that a little bit more then? So presumably you weren't in a mode of productivity beforehand, or as such a good mode, because you made a point of it there.
I was, but I think it continually honed in on what I was actually spending my time on. That's probably the biggest thing. What was I spending my time on? And the time I was spending the time I was giving to certain people and certain things, was it benefiting my life in a manner of, was it getting me to where I want to go? Was it getting me to where I could give more value to other people based off me feeling better about myself and the things I have, I would say. So for me, it was, it was a life enhancer in a lot of ways for me.
Cool. And do you think, you mentioned before that the 2 weeks you had away on was it a holiday you were away, you were out of the country, you didn't have the other people on the Life Accelerator course around you, or as much access to them? Did that play a part in having those people around you on the course? Does that have a part in rejigging everything for you, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
So I have somewhat access. A lot of times I would check in, but it was just kind of going back to, it was hard to stay consistent within that point for that 2 weeks. And there were times I would be in like a team meeting, and I'd be doing a team meeting call from like a music festival. And I'm like, this doesn't seem right. This doesn't seem right. But certainly, like for those 2 weeks, I kind of going back to like the accountability aspect, like just me thinking like, man, these other people signed up for this class. They would love to have like a support network, and by me not like being fully present and available to even just listen is not giving the most value I can for somebody, and it could limit or take away from their experiences and such. And then also, so it got me to think more of just again, dynamics, group dynamics, and just other people and how other people will perceive you. And by me kind of almost having that gap in 2 weeks, it really made me step up my game in the sense like I really want to be there for people and help out however I can, and then also just embracing the challenge of like catching up.
Because I noticed certainly the second half you were at the top there, because I remember asking you about how many hours you worked, and because I had I've got a lot of mixed thoughts about the accountability sheet, and you presented a really cool positive view that I hadn't really thought about, but actually it makes perfect sense. I come from a background where everything was strict. You have to do this. So I have a very strict Indian father who's like, you do what you're told. You work hard now and you enjoy life later, but this is what you need to do. Boom, 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 boom. And if you don't do it, well, you're just lazy. And everything that you get after that, you deserve because you were lazy.
Right.
And there were a few comments to me that came out in some of the team talks and some of what Brian was saying, how they were going to concentrate on the people that got the tasks done and this, that, and the other. And we had this whole red and green, which becomes sort of judgmental in itself.
That's a good point, yeah.
Green for good, red for go. And I know from educational research that, that can be seen as a negative. But I found the same thing as you, though. Actually, when I was active and I got my stuff up there, people were commenting, and you commented on other stuff. It created this self-fulfilling cycle of people doing their stuff without the judgment, because it was such a positive environment that everyone created. And I remember, first off, I actually made a mistake. Is that your end or my end?
I'm good.
Sorry. No, that's right. I commented on David Sonnet's fitness goals, but it was like quite a negative comment, and the two of us never really talked after that. And I'm going to phone him or message him as part of this process and say we were aware of each other, but I realized I got off to a poor start because I was critical. I tried to be critical in a positive way, but it was totally down to my mindset and how I perceive things. And what I realized was that actually when people were just really supportive of each other, everyone let themselves come out of themselves. and people, so someone was let themselves be stupid on camera, then other people let themselves be stupid on camera, and everyone was saying it was great and go for it, and people more and more were able to do that stuff. And it's made me change, because I come from a school of thought, this was where I was brought up, and you have to tell somebody how to live their life. That's what I was brought up with, and I'm learning now, and I have been for the last 6 years or so, but I still fall back into some ingrained habits every now and then. But I try and change other people's minds, as opposed to provide an environment that lets them change their own mind. And it's it's a subtle distinction, but one I'm getting to grips with, and I found I disagreed with a lot. But actually what Brian provided was like, well, here's an environment, just do it and work it out for yourself. Which was really cool. I do think that there were some people who felt a little bit, I've got so far behind now, I can't get there. And there's an awful lot of red in front of me, and those 3 people have got green and stuff. But on the whole, I think it was positive, and I just think there are tweaks that we can make to it longer term.
That's the way to put it.
So that
I think the biggest thing with the accountability doc working, I think it's probably one of the best environments you can create for something like that, where you have the green versus and the red accountability doc on a daily basis that gets seen, for it to have a positive effect on most people. Because all the things you kind of mentioned earlier about just from a psychological approach, you could very well not work for a lot of people, but through the environment that got created on an online platform, which is just amazing. It works pretty well. It works decently well, at least.
No, I was on the whole, I was really dead impressed with that. And it was slowly but surely. We actually didn't interact much during the course. I know we passed a couple of comments on each other's videos. And I don't know if you found that there were certain people who interacted really well across all the videos and had times and stuff like that. And there were maybe little groups of people that built up a relationship along the way.
I think it'd be interesting if it went like another 6 more weeks, because we would have seen like certainly a lot more evolving of just the relationships formed online, to where there probably been a much more greater deep connective community with it's commenting and stuff like that. But also find like a lot of stuff, it's hard to keep up on top of a lot of stuff that gets shared. Messages and comments just get lost.
Exactly. Well, I know both Tom Statter and Chris Woodward, they have ideas around improving the technology side of the platform, so that those things, so maybe sort of more database driven, so that it's much easier to pull up a person and their comments, or pull up all your own comments and stuff like that, because Facebook isn't necessarily the best platform for tracking all of that, and things do get lost. But the community side I thought was superb, and when we met everyone at the weekend, that was just awesome. Just the conversations that were being had, and I saw.
I remember when I was talking to Carlos one time. I forget everything we were talking about, but I was like, Carlos, man, me and you can literally just split from this conversation and go to any one of these people in this room right now, and we literally could just talk for hours and have like a deep, engaging conversation to anybody in this room right now. And like, where do you really find that? Where you just like you could just walk around, almost do like musical chairs in the room you're at, and just start talking to somebody, and you're gonna enjoy your hour or however long you're talking to that person. So you're enjoying the moment like that.
No, I totally agree, and that's I think that was one of the things for me was a really, really big point, was finding like-minded people with that sort of, not necessarily like-minded in terms of their politics, their religion or anything, but the fact that they could talk with a really open mind about all of them and not be judgmental on the other person's opinion, and can see the positives from the other person's side of you, and that was really, really big.
So then going back to like the community element, I don't know how when you guys' team calls went, but like our team calls, like there was a lot of people that would share stuff that was certainly very vulnerable, and you would just find right off the bat, people instantly would be like super supportive and just kind of say like, oh, we're here for you. Like if you ever need anything, we want to see you happy. We want to see you flourish and stuff like that. So it's really, again, it's on an online platform too. So it's cool.
Yeah. Our team, it was really interesting. I don't know. It actually happened totally coincidentally after the first, I think, Sunday call, or the first Tuesday call. I can't remember which of the first group call, whichever one it was. There were a certain number of people who stayed behind, and 5 or 6 of us were all from Julian's team, Team Bales. So there was Carlos, there was Jason, there was Paulo, there was Aldo, there was myself and stuff. We all ended up staying in a flat together. Yost was there. It was like, and it was just really cool. And it just so happened that we got all put in the same team.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, and it was just, and this whole thing about the, I think that's part of what worked really well for our team, was because we naturally gravitated to talking to each other, and all totally different people. You know, you've got Carlos and you got and me, who was sort of slightly older, maybe philosophical, me angry with the world a lot of the times, but trying to be less angry. And then you've got these Jason, Paul, and Yost, who young kids, again, like yourself. I call you a kid. You're not. You're a fully grown man with brilliant adult views and stuff like that. But again, these youngsters that were doing the same thing as like a 37 and a 50-year-old doing, and totally different experiences. But we somehow all gelled in some really bizarre way. We wouldn't have walked into a pub and started talking to each other, but through this, we just learned and we started talking, and it was really cool. So for yourself, I think I'm going to have to leave it in maybe 10-15 minutes. So just wrapping this one up. We, as part of the end of it, we had to sort of look at mapping what we wanted to do over the next 12 months. Did you already, I first want to ask, did you already have a 12-month plan? Because to me, you seem like the sort of guy who may have had some idea, but if you did or you didn't, what are you looking to do for the next 12 months?
Yeah. Well, I wish I should have looked what I kind of wrote in detail now, but it's okay. It's okay. Well, I've already found too, like once I did that, and then maybe like a month or two later now, it's changed a little bit. Like I had to evolve it a little bit, but overall kind of go back. I didn't have anything written down for like a 12-month plan before I did this course, but I was kind of in the back of my head, some things I want to do 12-month wise. For me, the biggest thing is traveling for me, and my main objective before I even got to like that last module for like your 12-month plan was being able to work on a cruise ship so I could travel through that.
All right.
Yeah. So right around the time, actually, I think we got to module 3. I had like an interview in England. So I got a job. So I'll be working on a cruise ship come November.
Oh, wow.
So a portion of like my 12-month goal revolves around work on the cruise ship and then how well I'm going to do on the cruise ship through, it's kind of like it's like a fitness instructor, and I'll be doing like seminars and stuff. So it's sales based in a lot of ways, but so it kind of revolves around like one of my goals and such. But I don't even know where I'm going to be going in the world. Like I go through the training in London again in November and December, and then afterwards they send me to wherever in the world. So it's almost in a lot of ways it's hard for me to say like, oh, in 12 months I have no idea where I'm going to be. So I don't know where I'm going from there. So then I kind of focus more on, for me, just things involved with my vlogs and stuff were more of my goals at that point. Like I'll give you like the example of, I always like to ask people, I call it like a deep talk question, where I ask people like, so what do you want to do before you die? A lot of times I never tell them before off camera like what the question I'm going to ask them. So I always ask them on the spot. A lot of times they'll pause for a second like, oh wow, okay, I got to think for a second, and then from them answering that question, it really creates some really neat deep conversations. But for like me, one of my goals is to like film and interview 100 people doing that. And like right now I'm at 30, I don't know, 32 or 33. And so things like that. And then I think also just continually doing like daily vlogs for, I think I just did actually 6-month plan. I don't think I did the full 12-month plan.
There was a bit of a mix up in the, I think we had old course materials on some of that.
Okay.
So he talked about doing 12-month, but all the worksheet stuff talked about where will you be in December.
Yeah.
But that made sense for the Life Accelerator group that started January, February time, I think.
Oh, okay.
That's
why,
where the mix-up came there. So
yeah.
that's a little note for you, Brian Rose and Alexander Zeri. Get your course materials sorted.
I don't know, like when I first started like the first module, I somehow had access to like a business accelerator portion. I don't know if you ever had that when you open like the course modules, because then there was a portion that was breaking down like find out what you're good at so you can like kind of direct yourself to a business. And it got me to do this exercise, which I would highly recommend doing, because it was just an enlightening experience for me. But literally just send a message to 15 of your friends or associates and ask them, hey, what am I good at, kind of thing. And it's interesting to hear the responses back. Like,
I did that. I did. Well,
you did that?
I did it with five people. It was like you say, it was interesting. But actually, my favourite response for me, from a personal point of view, was from the guy that I then later fell out with. Was that it was about you make people think about things differently, which I like that. I like the idea, because I think when we get stuck in the same ways of thinking, if your life is going great and hunky-dory in the way you want it to, then that's fine. But if it's not, then it's like we need to get out of those tracks.
You relate it back to somebody in a wheelchair. Like if they continually think the same way and don't get out of the wheelchair, they're going to still be in the wheelchair.
So what were some of the things that came back for you then?
Oh man, like the most common one was actually like just my positivity.
Positivity. I can see that.
Easygoing. I wish I think I actually did a video of all the stuff people said, but main one was positivity, motivation, just easygoing, spontaneity, always up for anything a lot of the times, and just a great, actually another one too I got was a great listener. And so it kind of like when I heard all this stuff, because I think I did this like in maybe like the first week of June, it just kind of got me thinking like, all right, positivity, good listener. Like I like to, and then from that I was like, oh yeah, I really like to talk to people, I like to have conversations. And then I think from there, then it gave me the idea like, you know what, I should try and just get some friends and let's just do a podcast, see what happens. Because I think that's when I started just doing like some video recordings of podcasts, was like in June.
Right.
And so I think that exercise kind of like led me to thinking like, you know what, okay, what's some ways I can tie together my positivity, my listening skills, just my intrigue with others and connecting with others. And I think from that, it gave me more of a fire to expand on how I've been doing like my daily thought vlogs. That's what they initially were. They were just my thoughts on camera. And now how they've evolved to include other people, have conversations with other people, and create moments that would otherwise not even exist. And just seeing how it brings smiles to people's faces. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Oh, one last question for me then. Daily Xander, where does the name come from? I'm sure you've said it in your blog somewhere, but I haven't got to that bit yet.
It's all. No, I don't think I don't even know where I would have said it. So there's too many out there for anybody to watch. Honestly. So have you heard of? And he's actually been on the London Real show before. His name's Gary Vaynerchuk. Yeah, so he actually has paid people that follow him around every day, recording all of his business interactions, and he calls it the Daily V.
Right.
And so I think like in through January to March, I was heavily just watching his Daily Vs. And I think at one point he even said in his Daily Vs, like, anybody can do this. Anybody can just like film yourself, just document essentially. And then like it just went off in my head. I was like, yeah, you know what? I could do that. Why not? Let's just let's just document my thoughts and all that. And then I just kind of just took like the name like Daily V and just translated it to Daily Xander, because I used to be called Xander at one point. So I was like,
right, okay, that's. I was wondering where the. Oh, so from Alexander.
Yeah, so from Alexander. I actually
right.
when I started grade school, there was so many Alexes in my class, so there were like 4 or 5 that I just somehow got the name Xander to separate myself. So yeah, my full name is Alexander, and I used to be called Xander for a while. So should go back to it. It's a good name. Like,
yeah. Well, because I was thinking Xander from, is it Triple X?
Yeah, Triple X with Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
So I wasn't.
And also, and I forget where in the world, but Xander, there's actually a fish called the Xander.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
Excellent. Well, I'll tell you what. I've loved chatting with you.
It's been a pleasure, man. I enjoyed it.
It's I'm totally on board with you, the whole conversation stuff, and loving it. And a friend and I have been thinking about it for so long, but we never got round to it. I'm taking inspiration from you, despite the fact that you're half my age.
We can learn stuff from anybody. Like, I learned
exactly.
I learned stuff from like the 9-year-old kid I trained. So, like,
exactly. So my Mike Paul Reel came from a similar thing, following Brian's podcasts and stuff, and then seeing his one with Joe Rogan, and he threw that invite out to do whatever city reel you were. But in my head, I just couldn't translate. I was in Newcastle, and I thought about it, and I searched out the web URL, was it free, and all of that sort of stuff. But I couldn't tie myself to the identity of Newcastle in quite some way. But then I just thought, well, what about just being myself? Because in the fitness world, a lot of people are using their own name as their web domain. And I just thought, how about tying the two together? And it is. I heard you mention about being authentic, and that was something that had been said to me a lot lately, was that you just you let yourself out there. You don't hold back in your thoughts, your emotions. You let people see who you are.
Yeah.
And so that Mike Paul reel, the real Mike Paul.
Yeah, this is the real Mike Paul. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's I
like that. Yeah.
Cool. Right.
That all seems to resonate well with what you just explained, as far as when you say the real part. Like, because I'm sure Brian will be like, when Brian gave you the look, you're like, oh, the other guy just wants to use the word real afterwards. Okay.
Yeah, and I think he would have thought it was like, if I'd said Newcastle Reels, hey, okay, cool, because I threw that invite out. But hang on, you're taking my idea and you're changing it. Oh, well, yeah, and I love to chat with him a bit more about it. But no, just that seemed to suit me. So a bit like yourself is like, you find the way things work for you. Yeah. And not be worried about what other people are thinking too much about it. Whilst we don't want to go around deliberately pissing people off. And
that's how I've kind of treated like my own daily Xanders, and anybody that watches. I don't necessarily I don't necessarily do it for like other people, like enjoyment of watching. I just do it more for me and like what I'm feeling in the moment when I do it, because I always take the approach of doing it unscripted. And when I do it unscripted, that's me. That's just me in the moment. Like, whatever. Yeah. So I'm all about that.
Yeah. Excellent. Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to having a few more of these. And
absolutely.
Hopefully, when you come to London, I don't know what spare time you might have, but if I can maybe work my way down there or whatever, we can get a catch up or whatever.
Yeah. I would love to come,
because there's a few people down there.
Yeah, I would love to come 3 or 4 days prior to when I have to start my training, just so I can meet up with people. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, and if you fancy a trip up to Newcastle, then you're more than welcome. Dude, more than welcome. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for talking. I've really enjoyed it. And like I say, we'll have more conversations, real conversations.
Absolutely, Mike. Thank you for the opportunity, man. I enjoyed every moment of it. It was awesome.
Excellent. Cool. I look forward. So this is Alex Clemens, Xander, the Daily Xander, for those of you who want to go and watch it, because he is such a cool dude. And this is Mike of Mike Paul Reel. We're signing off here. Till next time. All right. Take care, guys. Cheers.
Take care.
All right.